Moving on now, we are turning our focus to France. French lawmakers have approved President Emmanuel Macron's new law that proposes to fight radical Islamism in the country. Now, the law aims to strengthen oversight of mosques, schools and sports clubs to safeguard France from radical Islamists. Now, the vote in the lower house was the first hurdle for the legislation that has been long in the making after 2 weeks of intense debate. While the French government maintains that the law will combat Islamism and Islamist separatism, the critics say that the law is discriminatory and targets France's 5.7 million Muslim community. This is the largest in Europe. Now, activists also fear that the law could trample religious freedoms and turn all Muslims into potential suspects. Now, the bill, known as Article 18, is known as the Paty Law, named after Samuel Paty, the teacher who was beheaded outside his school west of Paris. The legislation makes it a crime to endanger the life of a person by providing details of their private life and location. And the law will also punish doctors who provide the so-called virginity certificates for religious marriages, clamp down on homeschooling for children over 3 years old, and stricter financial controls will be put in place on foreign funding of religious organizations in France. Now, the law is dubbed the Anti-Separatism Bill, as French lawmakers fear Islamists are creating communities that reject France's secular identity and laws, as well as its values, such as equality between the sexes. While the words Islamic or Islamist do not appear in the legislation, activists say that the bill stigmatizes the country's second largest religion, even though the majority of French Muslims do not espouse extremist views. Now, the bill is also widely expected to be passed at the Senate and becoming a law within the next few months. Now, for more on this, we are being joined live by Anne-Elisabeth Moutet from Paris. She is a journalist and a columnist for The Telegraph. Hello and welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, thank you.
Great. We'll jump right in. Now, it was expected that this bill would pass without much opposition in both houses of French Parliament, considering the rise of Islamist extremist attacks over the past decade. Will you take us through the details of this bill and how it will protect secularism in the country, and also when it will be ratified?
The bill has got to go through the Senate and then come back to the House for a final signing, and it's expected to pass fairly easily. And the point about this bill, unlike what critics with an agenda say, is that it is bringing the Muslim religion into the general framework of the 1905 bill that takes care of other religions in France. Until now, Islam, which is fairly new in mainland France, is something that was taken care by a different bill about associations and NGOs. And now it's being brought back into a system in which the state provides for the religion with an existence so that religion can be practiced freely. And it can be practiced freely, but it's considered, as all religions, as something that is private and not something that the state either finances or makes compulsory. The various aspects of the law also go into something that is expected from most religions. And that was actually signed by the Jews with Napoleon Bonaparte more than 2 centuries ago, which is the law of the Republic is the law of all citizens of the Republic, and therefore you have to abide by the law. And that's why a number of provisions have been specifically put in this bill, including the right for women not to be forced into marriage, the right for women to have their own bank accounts and to go out and wear what they want, irrelevant of what their fathers or their brothers or their husbands want from them. And there's also the fact that because Islam is a new religion, comparatively new religion in France, lots of mosques and imam schools were financed by foreign countries, and this is something that has proven problematic many times, and therefore it provides also a framework for this to be eased into a purely French financing. There's also, because the problem of the tiny Islamist minority is that they live completely separately, which is why the bill has been dubbed the law against separatism. The home instruction is going to be controlled. And the idea that you educate people in different language about different values without any communication with the national curriculum is also something that's going to go into this. There are many dispositions, and the opposition made token sort of comments on the bill, and they either abstained or did not or voted against. But by and large, it's something on which about 80% of the French are in complete agreement with. And I might add that a great deal of the Muslim population in France also is, because something like 45% of French Muslims are either Kabyles or Berbers who come from Algeria and Morocco to some stage. And these are the people who were the first victims of Islamism during the Great Civil War in Algeria between 1992 and 2000. And they are the first ones to integrate into French society and to be even today the victims of Islamists. The son of the greatest Berber singer, Ferhat Meheni, was assassinated in Paris 5-6 years ago by Islamists.
Right. Now, Anne Elizabeth, critics are calling this bill discriminatory to the 5.7 million strong Muslim population in France, which is the largest Muslim population in a European country. What are your comments?
How could it be discriminatory when it's actually bringing the Muslim faith into the broad umbrella that France has had for 215 years now? 115 years now, since 1905. I think it is not discriminatory. It's exactly the same dispositions, and there are aspects of behaviors that are illegal in France, so they're underlined in the bill, but actually the laws existed beforehand. There were some practices which are frankly something that are not acceptable today, such as allowing certificates of virginity being delivered by doctors. And the idea, we know exactly what those certificates of virginity are for, and it is incredibly discriminatory against women. So these are the dispositions that, have been taken specifically because they've been observed more and more with Islamism that in France dates from the 1990s. It did not really exist before, even at the time of the War of Independence of Algeria, when certainly things were not well between France and the Muslim community in France, which was mostly Algerian. They were secular. They were absolutely not. They didn't have, or they had a private religion, but they had nothing like this sort of extension of Wahhabism and Salafism that we've seen since the late 70s, the 80s, and now, and that's created these kinds of behaviors.
Anne Elizabeth, thank you very much for bringing us all those details and that analysis there.
We are now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.